Let's talk to Connie Shaw. Connie, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Welcome to Morning Glory. It's great, this flag thing, isn't it? It's like suddenly Britain has rediscovered its patriotism and it's being exhibited every single minute of the day.
I think it's great, and I've heard a lot of people say, well, actually, it's a sign of weakness, and people actually, it's a sign of people feeling insecure. Well, of course people are insecure.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you feel insecure? It's like there's nothing else that we can do at this point other than, you know what, let's just make it obvious that we're still patriotic. We still value the fact that we are British and we have British values.
Right.
I find it sort of a reverse argument when people say, oh, actually, it's a sign of weakness and you're just showing your insecurities.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're insecure. That's not a bad thing. We're making it clear, yes, we are insecure, and that's why we want to do this, to try and re-instill that patriotism that you're
But the
talking
people
about.
who accuse us of being insecure are the very people who have created
who are more than happy to say everyone is, you know, let's not have any borders, there's no such thing as a nation, we'll bring everyone in, doesn't matter where you're from or what you believe, you're welcome in this country, and how dare you be patriotic.
Right. And do you not think that those people actually are not representative of the public in this country? Because I think the thing that we've found as hosts of radio shows and TV shows over the years, particularly here at Talk, is that, you know, the silent majority have been very, very silent, and now they're suddenly going, actually, you know what, we're actually going to stand up. You know, we're sick to death of being told that we've got it wrong. We're sick to death of being told that Britain's a toxic nation and that we're white supremacists and we don't like people who've got different coloured skin. It's not about that. It's about being proud of your own country, surely.
Absolutely, and that's why I have a lot of respect for Kemi Badenoch, because from the beginning she has been, in no uncertain terms, very clear about the fact that if we're going to allow people from significantly different, fundamentally different cultures into this country, we have to have a serious conversation about our differences, and that actually some cultures are not as valid as others. Some cultures are bad compared to ours.
Absolutely.
And it's not a racist thing to say that some cultures, frankly, treat their people like, you know, the worst things in the world. And we have to be honest about that. We can't pretend that as soon as people step foot on British soil that suddenly they're these liberal people who love everyone, who are going to treat everyone with tolerance and respect that we expect them to. It's just not the case.
Exactly.
And I have a lot of respect for her.
Because again, you know, if you go to, you know, Palestine, if you go and sort of hang out in Gaza, you suddenly very quickly become aware of the fact that they're not a very tolerant bunch of people. They don't like gay people. They don't really like men who perhaps, you know, are not as macho as they think they should be. You know, they are very prejudicial people. And so suddenly when we kind of lionise them and go, oh, let's celebrate Palestine, let's have queers for Palestine. No, we don't have queers for Palestine, because in Palestine, queers would be killed.
Well, yeah, that is a difficult thing that they have to grapple with, and I guess, well, they tend to say, well, just because they might not accept me doesn't mean that they shouldn't have human rights, which I suppose is a good argument, but like you say, it is concerning when we know that children are now going to be able to come here for medical care. Not only that, they'll be bringing their family here, and they've had over a decade of Hamas indoctrination. So yes, we don't know who
exactly. And also, I mean, yesterday we were seeing, you know, and the front page of the Daily Mirror actually which was one of the worst front pages I think of any newspaper I've ever seen in this country, where they had this Somalian incomer who was in the migrant hotel in Epping, who was basically saying, oh, please don't treat us all as if we're all criminals. We're not all criminals. You know, we're very nice people, actually. And for me, the problem was that nobody was asking him the pertinent question, which is, what are you doing here exactly? Why have you come here? What are you doing in Epping, in Essex, from Somalia? You know, I get it that you might want to have a better life. I get it that you might want to improve yourself. But I think we've got the clip. Let's have a look.
I would say, please give us a second chance. Please treat us the same way you treated us before the incident, because we are the same people. Before the incident, you didn't view us as you know, criminals or anything. You were okay with us before the incident took place. We are the same people. One person doesn't change us. What one person does not, you know, represent us or what we are. You know, that's what I want to say to them.
And a message about having to move. Do you want to move?
Please, I say, please don't move us, because if you move us, everyone else will want to do the same to us.
And, you know, please don't move us. The incident he's talking about is, of course, the guy who's been allegedly charged with assaulting a teenager. The bottom line is, as I say, for my purposes anyway, I would say, well, what do you want from us? What are you doing here? Why are you not in Somalia?
Well, I can imagine why you might not want to be in Somalia, but the question is, why didn't you remain in the first safe country that you arrived in? And you know, it's not a secret that Somalia, it doesn't have a particularly favourable view of women. We know how women are treated in that society. And at the end of the day, as much as it might not be him that's committing these crimes, as a country, we need to have a serious conversation about the fact that as a woman, and I see most things through the lens of women's rights because that is my background in politics. We cannot not have the conversation about that Afghans are 20 times more likely to commit sexual violence than British people.
I mean, how do you feel as a woman walking around the streets of London, for example, now, which are very different from what they were even 10 years ago?
Well, I didn't grow up in London, so I can't compare it to anything like that. But I can, unfortunately, from my own experiences, whenever I have come into trouble with men that I don't know out in public, these are just my personal experiences, and I wish it wasn't the case. I wish I could tell you something different. It nearly always is a man from a certain background, and they make it very clear from the way that they behave that for them this is just normal. And like I say, I wish I had...
Because these are foreign men, in other words.
Yeah, men who've... I mean, even at university, at one time I was flashed in a nightclub because I wouldn't dance with a guy. And he told me that I was disrespectful because I told him to get away from me after he was repeatedly trying to dance with me, trying to hold my hand. And I just said, please leave me alone. He wouldn't stop pestering me. He then, on the dance floor of the nightclub, just unbuttoned his jeans and got his genitals out to intimidate me. And it turns out that he was a student. He was an international student. He'd come from Saudi. And it's like, maybe there's no correlation here, but also, why are you calling me disrespectful for not wanting to give in to your immediate request to hold my hand and dance with me? And it's just... What am I meant to do? What are women meant to do when there's clearly a correlation?
And why should you have to put up with that? Why should you?
And people say, well, we've never been a safe country for women. British men are just equally as bad. And they'll say, well, it's always most people who get abused by men is by men that they know. I know. So let's not make it even worse when we're inviting men from cultures that we know. And it's not racist to say, and it's actually factually correct to say that countries like Afghanistan and countries in the Middle East take an unfavourable view of women.
Well,
and Jess Phillips cannot answer that question as to why. Tom Sawbrook on LBC asked her this question directly on LBC the other day, and she'll say, well, every country has a patriarchy. And she loves going on about this word patriarchy, that she will never admit that the patriarchy that we have in this country is miles, universes apart from what is going on in Afghanistan, and it's an insult to Afghan women to argue that there is supposedly no difference between the way that men treat women in Afghanistan and the way that women are treated in the British.
Where they've now, by the way, said that not only should they wear a burqa, which means that they can't actually be showing their face, they've now said they should only be allowed to have one eye, which is able to look out of whatever it is that they're covering their heads with. But, you know, equally, they say they want to safeguard women and girls all the time. It's what they say, and of course they don't actually want to safeguard women and girls because they're not doing it. But I mean, it's just such ridiculousness. Let's just talk about Lucy Connolly before we let you go, because I know that was originally what we were supposed to talk about. Lucy Connolly finally released back into the bosom of her family yesterday. Everybody's trying to talk to her. We're not sure if we're going to be able to get to her before, you know, a newspaper does. I suspect she'll do a big interview with one of the papers at the weekend. But, you know, what a ridiculous situation that you've locked a woman up for 31 months, allegedly. She's got out, obviously, before that. But what an awful sort of experience for her.
I know, it's just insane. She has been made an example of. I think we also forget that as much as she technically served only 9 months of her 31-month sentence, she's been behind bars for over a year because she was remanded in custody, and that is the very reason why she pled guilty, because she believed that by pleading guilty she'd end up being behind bars for a shorter time. Rather than if she pled not guilty.
Well, she was told that, wasn't she?
That was the advice, supposedly, that she was given, that if she'd pled not guilty, she'd be behind bars for an even longer time, awaiting trial behind bars, which is different to what happened with Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor, who, in my opinion, did something far worse than what Lucy did. Both were disgusting, but what Ricky Jones did, standing in a crowd of people at a protest, saying those protesters over there need to have their throats cut, and get every single one of them.
And he also said it in front of a camera.
Yes, in front of a camera.
You know,
he's an elected
much
official.
Larger, you know,
absolutely, and he was released on bail. Eventually had the expert advice of a very experienced criminal lawyer, a KC, whereas Lucy only had a duty solicitor and was very badly advised. And then once Lucy was sentenced, in the sentencing remarks, the judge referenced diversity and inclusion. So there wasn't just a legal assessment of her tweet. There was a political one, in my opinion. I'm sure they would refute
I think
that.
so. Yeah.
But while she was in prison, she was denied release on temporary licence, which meant that she could have spent at least one night at home a month. Apparently that was due, according to the prisons, it was due to a pending risk assessment.
Right.
But internal comms said it was due to the public interest in her case, as though like a double punishment. Because you've had so much attention, you're not allowed to go home. She was also denied home curfew detention, which meant that she could be at home on electronic tag. She was denied that, but 2 other inmates who were serving sentences for death by dangerous driving were granted it. They were applying at the same time. They were serving sentences for death by dangerous driving. They were allowed to go home, but Lucy wasn't. There has been 2-tier justice throughout that. The same judge who gave Lucy her 31 months gave a man, Harris Gaffard, only 20 months for actually taking part in the riots. Another man, Philip Prescott, took part in an attack on a mosque, threw things at police officers. He was given a more lenient sentence. A man called Mohammed Islam Chowdhury, in 2013, he was part of a Telford grooming gang. He got a more lenient sentence for paying a child for sex. So when people tell you that there's no two-tier justice in this country, they are being willfully ignorant and choosing to ignore the facts that are in front of us.
And do you think it's possible, and I know it might be a difficult question to answer officially, if you like, do you think that there was an instruction that came from Downing Street to go to the CPS, to go to that judge, so that they knew exactly what was going on, that it wasn't just controlled, it wasn't just a judge who kind of inadvertently went, we're going to make an example of this woman, it was actually an instruction from much higher up?
I couldn't possibly comment. Obviously, at the time, it was a very politically turbulent period, and Starmer
did. But it's not inconceivable, is it?
It's not inconceivable, but I wouldn't want to comment either way. But Keir Starmer obviously said that they were going to be sort of rushed people to get people through the courts.
Well, he was already calling people far-right thugs before they were even convicted.
And what's even more ironic, that Keir Starmer in 2013, when he was Director of Public Prosecution, said that he didn't think that, well, as long as when someone posted something offensive on social media, he said, as long as there was efforts to delete the posts, as long as they were remorseful, as long as there wasn't really the intent to actually incite anything, that they shouldn't be locked up. But he's changed a lot, it seems, in the last 10 years.
Funny that. He's done quite a lot of U-turning, hasn't he? I mean, he's U-turned so often, I wonder whether he can actually stand still and not be very dizzy.
Yes,
but, you know,
it would be nice if he could have a word with his former self.
And as a proponent of free speech, is it possible, do you think, that Lucy Connolly will come out and speak about this, or will she be told, you know, your life will be a lot simpler if you just don't?
Well, I'm sure she'll be told lots of things. I couldn't possibly comment about what Lucy's situation will be now that she's out of prison. However, we do have a case at the moment, Robert Moss. So he was arrested. He was on talk. He was talking to Kev the other day.
Right? Yeah.
Ex-fireman who was arrested under the on suspicion of breaking the Malicious Communications Act for harassment without violence, because he'd criticised his former employer, Staffordshire Fire Service, on Facebook, and his bail conditions said that not only could he not say anything about Staffordshire Fire Rescue and Service, he couldn't even mention the fact that he'd been arrested. His house had been raided at 7 a.m, had all of his devices seized, so it's not uncommon, and it's almost similar to, well, obviously it's a different scale, completely different cases, but the fact that one of the reasons for Lucy not being granted release on temporary licence due to the public interest in her case, it's like, if you have public interest, if you draw attention to your case, we'll punish you again. And it's a very, very draconian Orwellian condition.
And this is happening all the time, isn't it? I mean, we found out from Essex Police when the protest started happening in Epping, that they basically arrest something like 1.4 people a day for some kind of hate crime, which is supposedly a spoken hate crime. So there's an awful lot of this going on.
Oh yeah, custody data obtained by The Times says that 30 people a day are being arrested for so-called offensive messages on social media. It is a problem.
I mean, I must admit, I'm now at the point where I expect somebody to come knocking on my door. You know, because I offend people every single day. You know, I take pride in it. That's what I do. But you wonder if people don't have a platform, if they don't have any kind of way of protecting themselves, what can they do?
It does occur to me that these seem to be, considering there are so many people having visits from the police, it must be happening to people who don't have that much. Because
Totally.
when it happened to Alison Pearson, it was huge news. And it was a wake-up call for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when it happens to people who have big platforms, it really does raise the alarm. But the fact there are 30 people a day, when the most active people on social media are people like you and me, whose jobs are to be active on social media. But it can't be happening to those people. So are they picking? It does feel like they're going after people who don't know their rights, who don't have an opportunity to say, this has happened to me. And that's why it's so important that anyone out there who feels like that they're about to get in trouble or have been in trouble, the first thing you do is get in contact with the Free Speech Union, and we will help you.
Yeah.
Always get in contact.
Okay.
It's devastating when we're not able to get there in time for people like Lucy. If only we could have advised her before she chose to plead guilty. But people like Robert, he had no idea that the Free Speech Union existed before he got in trouble. And he even said to me on the phone the other day, had he heard about this thing that's happened to him happening to someone else before it happened to him, he wouldn't have believed it. But now it's happened to him, and he cannot believe that this is the state of our country.
Yeah, it is extraordinary, isn't it? Amazing. Connie, great to see you. Thank you so much. What a fantastic woman, what a fantastic organisation, the Free Speech Union.